All right, so I'm gonna do a match preview of my uh, Glorious You final match with Ewaldus 7. So if you're not familiar with the way that uh, this tournament is working, the qualifiers were Archon best of one. It was an 8 round Swiss, which went to a top 16 cut. This top 16 then was organized into two pods, and then we had to use the Sanctimonious developed unnatural selection house draft, which led me to a pretty interesting restriction. So I in that draft, that was at the end of the day, at the end of that 8 round Swiss. So I went 5-3 in that. Really exhausting games. I It was based on your seed position, and I was in an okay but not great position. But I misplayed that draft. So I ended up in Dis, Sanctum, and Untamed. These are. This is not a house combination I would normally be looking for. I will admit that. I was really trying to get something with Star Alliance, and uh, I was actually really looking for my triple transporter deck, which is Sanctum, Shadows, Star Alliance. Once I got stuck in Untamed, that sort of threw everything uh, into chaos, and I ended up getting also stuck. I don't remember all the details of the draft. I think that draft is recorded, but I sort of probably panicked at that point. So I ended up in Dis Sanctum Untamed. So my deck that I ended up going with is Gaunt Code Shack Quack. So I want to kind of quickly analyze this deck. I had a lot of trouble selecting a deck. From the collection that I own, I did not have a deck that I thought was going to be remotely competitive. Frankly, I don't necessarily think that the deck I ended up bringing is going to be competitive. It's just this house combination is particularly difficult. It's not. None of these houses are known to be quick, and I probably could have looked a little bit harder to find a quicker house or some decks that kind of were a little bit quicker. But I needed to find a deck, and then also train myself on the deck. So I did end up purchasing 3 decks to try to work my way through. Whether or not this was the right choice out of the 3 is probably debatable, almost certainly debatable, but this is the choice I made. So here are the things that I like about the deck. It has a couple of, well, first it has an Eaton's Jar, so especially when I'm facing something that doesn't have artifact control, if I can get that out early, I can take away some really nice pieces of my opponents. It has a Book of Malefaction, so I knew, for instance, I was going to be facing Shadows in round 1, so that ability to have a strong counter to steal through that Omni Purge was something that I was happy with. It has a ton of artifact control, almost too much artifact control, with the double Gorm, and then also a Reclaim by Nature. But that can be useful if you're working against a deck that really does rely on artifacts. So there's some really nice things in there. It's got the Infernus Ritual combo, and then it's got some Hidden Burst. In particular, it's got 3 creatures that have a fight gain 2 um, effect, sometimes with a restriction. So Baldric the Bold is if he fights the most powerful creature, you gain 2. The Eldest Bear is when he's in the center of the line, he gains 2 before fight. So these are Baldric and Eldest Bear before fight effects, and then Dark Fairy is skirmish and fight gain 2. So those are really nice if I can hold board and use those effects with double Grey Rider, double Smite, and also again some secret sort of bursts out of this is if I have a Grey Rider on the board, Dark Fairy, and Ghost Hawk in hand, I can end up throwing a Dark Fairy into a fight, sort of as a surprise. So there's again some nice pieces. I have ways to control key cost through Anguish, and through the Vine Apple Tree. So that's kind of what drew me to the deck. It does have a board control, some board control. It does need board, and it doesn't have a lot of power. Its power is only 66, so it's a little it can be a little difficult to play, and it's slow. So these are some of the challenges that I have playing it. Again, I just think this is going to be it's going to be a challenging match. So I want to look at my opponent's deck, look at what he has that's really good, and what's going to kind of give me and some challenges and what I can try to do against it. So both decks are labeled as 71 SAS, but I think this deck is actually probably a league or two ahead of the deck I'm bringing. It has the real star of this deck is the Mars board, though the Shadows is also really solid, and the Sanctum is okay. This is sort of classic Coda Sanctum, which is pretty good. It has probably the best Sanctum rare in Numquid the Fair. The Spirit's Way actually does it hurts both of the boards here, but does significantly more damage to my board, so not great. Harder They Come can purge my Anguish, which can really do some damage to me. But the real damage comes in Mars. So Hypnotic Commands can make me capture onto my own creatures. Irradiated Amber can damage my creatures, and again, I have low power. Key Abduction can get a free key. The Grabber Jammers increase cost, and so forth. It also has ways of getting things out early with John Smith, which can be troublesome. So these are some of the challenges that I think are really there. It's got a Speed Sigil, which is sort of a mix in our decks, but it can definitely do some damage to me. But the big thing is, so the way I want to try to deal with this deck is if I can get my Jar out, I actually probably want to deal with the Dominators early, prevent those from coming out, or the Grabber Jammers. It really depends on the flow of the game, because those will hinder both key abduction. There's no additional ways to sort of advance key abduction, and it will also prevent hypnotic command from being as effective. And also, if I have book out, it hurts shadows, though doesn't prevent the steal. Uh, Obviously, there's Be Gone there, which can do some damage to me. So this is going to be a tough match. I think this deck probably wins 7 or 8 out of 10 matches. So I just have to hope I'm in that 2 to 3 range. Get good draws, play right, and yeah.